Commander Zara of the 7th Galactic Fleet stood on the observation deck of her warship, the Spear of Vengeance, arms crossed as she gazed at the pathetic blue-green planet that rotated slowly on the main view screen. Her lip curled in contempt. "So, this is Earth," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Honestly, I expected something more impressive for a species that's caused so much commotion in the Galactic Council." Lieutenant Nyx Talon snorted as she pulled up the planetary data on her tablet. "According to our intelligence, humans have barely managed space travel beyond their own moon. Their technology is practically Stone Age compared to ours. And yet," Zara said, tapping her clawed finger against her armored forearm, "they have managed to defeat 3 separate invasion attempts." The bridge fell silent. The Krell Dominion, the Vorix Hive, and most recently, the Meccano Collective, all had attempted to claim Earth as their own. All had failed spectacularly. "Those other species were weak," declared General Kora Stormrider as she strode onto the bridge, her heavy boots clanking against the metal floor. The lower-ranked warriors immediately stood at attention. At 7 feet tall, with deep purple skin and a mane of silver hair braided with battle trophies, Kora commanded respect wherever she went. "The Amazora Empire does not know defeat." Zara bowed her head slightly. "Of course, General. Our warriors are unmatched across 17 galaxies. 18 now," Kora corrected with a shark-like grin. "After we claim this pitiful rock." Lieutenant Nyx cleared her throat. "Our scouts report that Earth's defenses are primitive. Projectile weapons, rudimentary energy shields, and laughably weak aircraft. Their militaries are disorganized and divided by arbitrary geographic boundaries." Kora laughed, a sound like thunder cracking across a battlefield. "And their greatest weakness of all, their males." The bridge erupted in laughter. The Amazora were a matriarchal species, with females comprising the entirety of their military and leadership. Their males, smaller and gentler, were kept safely on their homeworld as caregivers, artists, and companions. The idea of allowing their precious males to fight was absolutely unthinkable. "What do human males even look like?" asked Navigator Thera, a younger warrior who had never encountered humans before. Nyx tapped her tablet, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the bridge. A human male specimen, bare-chested, with pathetically small muscles and no visible battle scars. "By the sacred spear, they let that go to war." Zara snickered, nearly doubling over. "Look at those puny arms. And where are his honor markings? Does he have no accomplishments to display?" Kora circled the hologram, studying it with almost scientific curiosity. "Intelligence reports the human males actually serve as their military leaders in many regions. Can you imagine? These soft creatures giving orders to warriors." Another round of laughter filled the bridge. "Our plan is simple," the general continued, wiping a tear of mirth from her eye. "We will land near one of their larger population centers, this New York City. We will capture a sample of males for study, demonstrate our superior strength by destroying a few of their primitive military vehicles, and then demand surrender. I expect total capitulation within 2 planetary rotations." Zara nodded in agreement. "The males will likely be terrified and surrender immediately. We won't even need to fire our main cannons." "Precisely," Kora said with a satisfied grin. "And once Earth falls, we will have secured our 18th galaxy. The High Matriarch will be pleased." The general turned to address the bridge crew. "Prepare for orbital descent. Full battle armor, but minimal weaponry. We don't want to waste good plasma charges on these primitives. Standard intimidation formation upon landing." "Yes, General." The crew responded in unison as the warriors dispersed to prepare for the landing. Zara couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. She had hoped for a challenge, something worthy of adding to her collection of battle trophies. Taking Earth would barely qualify as a skirmish, let alone a true battle. Little did she know that Earth had surprises in store that no amount of Amazora intelligence could have prepared them for. The landing was flawlessly executed, as expected. 5 Amazora dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere with precise coordination, their stealth technology rendering them invisible to human radar. They touched down in what humans called Central Park, a surprisingly pleasant green space in the middle of their concrete jungle. Zara stepped out first, the dropship's ramp hissing as it met Earth soil. She inhaled deeply, analyzing the atmosphere. Oxygen levels slightly higher than their homeworld, but well within acceptable parameters. Gravity approximately 0.8 of what she was accustomed to, which would give the Amazora warriors an additional advantage in strength and agility. Spread out. Defensive formation Theta, she commanded. 30 warriors moved with fluid precision, creating a perimeter around their ships. General Kora emerged next, her ceremonial armor gleaming in Earth's sunlight. The armor was primarily decorative. They hadn't expected to need actual protection against human weapons. "Where are the welcoming parties?" Kora asked sarcastically. "I was expecting at least some panicked screaming by now." As if on cue, sirens began wailing in the distance. Humans who had been enjoying the park stood frozen in shock, staring at the alien warriors and their ships. "Look at them. They are paralyzed with fear," Nyx observed, adjusting her translator to better pick up human languages. "That one isn't." Zara pointed to a human female who was holding up a small device, apparently recording them. "Impressive courage for a primitive. Probably doesn't even understand the threat we represent," Kora said dismissively. Nyx broadcast the standard Conquest announcement. Lieutenant Nyx activated her external speakers. Her voice boomed across the park in perfect English, a language their linguistic AIs had decoded from Earth's abundant radio and television broadcasts. "People of Earth, we are the Amazora Empire, conquerors of 17 galaxies. Your planet is now under our control. Resistance is futile and will be met with overwhelming force. We demand an immediate meeting with your world leaders and the surrender of a selection of your male specimens for scientific study. Comply, and your lives will be spared. Defy us, and witness the destruction of everything you hold dear." The speech was met with an unexpected reaction. Many humans were indeed running away in panic, but others had pulled out their communication devices and were recording the event. Some even appeared to be smiling. "They don't seem appropriately terrified," Zara noted with confusion. "Their primitive brains probably can't process the severity of the situation," Kora replied. "No matter. Here come their defenders." Several blue-uniformed humans approached cautiously, primitive projectile weapons drawn. Police officers, according to their intelligence briefs. "That's close enough," Zara called out, raising her hand. With a flick of her wrist, she activated a small device that disabled all electronic devices within a 100-meter radius. The officers' communication devices went dead. One brave officer stepped forward. "I'm Captain Frank Ramirez of the NYPD. Under the authority of the City of New York, I'm ordering you to identify yourselves and state your purpose." Zara and Kora exchanged amused glances. "Did this tiny male just give me an order?" Kora asked incredulously. The audacity of these creatures is almost admirable. The general strode forward, towering over Captain Ramirez. To his credit, he stood his ground, though Zara could detect elevated heart rate and perspiration indicating fear. "I am General Kora Stormrider of the Amazora Empire. We have claimed your world as part of our territory. Your job, little male, is to contact your leaders and inform them that we require their immediate surrender." Captain Ramirez's hand tightened on his weapon. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you and your people to stand down and come with me to answer some questions." "Oh, we will answer your questions," Kora grinned, revealing her sharp, predator-like teeth. "Starting with this one. How quickly can your species kneel?" With lightning speed, she reached out and crushed the barrel of Ramirez's gun with one hand, twisting the metal like it was clay. The captain stumbled backward in shock. "Next question," Kora continued, casually tossing aside the mangled weapon. "Where can we find your finest male specimens? The ones you humans seem to think are worthy of leadership." Before Ramirez could answer, the sound of heavy machinery approached. Several military vehicles had arrived at the park's perimeter. Earth was mobilizing its defenses, primitive as they were. General, Zara said, human military forces approaching. Minimal threat level. Perfect timing for a demonstration, Kora replied. She turned to her warriors. Disable one of their vehicles. No plasma weapons. Use kinetic force only. We want to show them how outmatched they are even without our advanced technology. 3 Amazora warriors nodded and sprinted toward the approaching vehicles with inhuman speed. What happened next was both impressive and comical to watch. The warriors, using only their enhanced strength and battle training, flipped an armored personnel carrier as easily as a child might overturn a toy. The humans inside scrambled out, eyes wide with disbelief. Now they understand, Kora said with satisfaction. Zara, select a male for preliminary examination, preferably one who appears to be in a leadership position. Zara scanned the growing crowd of military and police personnel. Her eyes settled on a tall human in a different uniform, one who seemed to be giving orders to others. She pointed him out to 2 warriors, who immediately moved to apprehend him. What Zara didn't expect was the human's reaction. Instead of cowering or attempting to flee, he stepped forward to meet them. He was taller than the average human male, with a physique that, while still inferior to Amazora standards, showed evidence of physical training. I'm Colonel James Walker, United States Army, he announced as the warriors approached. I'd strongly advise against any further hostile actions. We have no quarrel with you, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. The warriors laughed as they moved to seize him. But Colonel Walker was surprisingly quick. He dodged the first grab, then used one warrior's momentum to send her stumbling into her companion. It wasn't enough to truly hamper the Amazora, but it was unexpected enough to give Zara pause. Interesting, she murmured. This one has some fight in him. The warriors quickly recovered and secured Colonel Walker, bringing him before General Kora. Despite being restrained, he maintained direct eye contact with the Amazora leader, an act that would be considered either brave or foolish, depending on one's perspective. Your primitive combat techniques are quaint, Kora told him, circling like a predator, but ultimately useless against superior biology. Walker remained calm. You have made your point about physical strength, but there's more to humanity than that. If you're truly interested in peaceful contact, we can arrange discussions with appropriate authorities. Peaceful contact? Kora laughed. We are not here for diplomacy, male. We are here to conquer. That would be a mistake, Walker replied evenly. Humanity doesn't respond well to threats. Something in his tone made Zara take notice. There was no fear there, only warning, as if he were concerned for them. Before she could ponder this further, Lieutenant Nix approached urgently. General, our sensors are detecting multiple high-speed aircraft approaching, more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Kora waved dismissively. Deploy countermeasures. Nothing their primitive technology can produce will penetrate our shields. That's what the Meccano Collective thought too, Colonel Walker commented, before they retreated with half their fleet destroyed. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Kora's face. You speak as if you were there, male. I was, Walker replied. I led the counteroffensive against their southern invasion force. Zara's eyes narrowed. This didn't align with their intelligence reports. The Amazora had assumed that human males were kept away from combat, as was logical for the weaker sex. Yet here was one claiming to have led warriors into battle. The sound of approaching aircraft grew louder. But instead of the primitive jets they were expecting, sleek, advanced fighters appeared in the sky above them. Their design was unlike anything in the Amazora intelligence files. General, Nix said, alarm evident in her voice, these craft have energy signatures similar to Meccano Collective technology, but different, modified. Impossible, Kora snapped. These humans couldn't possibly have adapted collective tech. Colonel Walker's lips curved into a slight smile. You'd be surprised what humans can do when motivated, especially when we salvage interesting technology from unwelcome visitors. For the first time since landing on Earth, Zara felt a chill of apprehension. The human military vehicles they disabled so easily might have been just a primitive front line. What if there was more to Earth's defenses than their intelligence had uncovered? General, she said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Kora shot her a warning glance. We are Amazora. We do not retreat at the first sign of resistance. Of course not, General, Zara replied carefully. But tactical reassessment is not retreat. It's prudent strategy. The human aircraft began circling the park, keeping their distance but clearly establishing a perimeter. More ground forces had arrived as well, setting up positions around them. They weren't attacking yet, but they were definitely preparing for that possibility. Your reinforcements won't matter, Kora told Walker, though her voice lacked some of its earlier confidence. We have a fleet in orbit that could reduce your cities to ash with a single command. Do you? Walker asked simply. Have you confirmed that recently? The implications of his question hit Zara like a physical blow. She immediately activated her communication link to the Spear of Vengeance. Bridge, report status, she demanded. Static was her only answer. Bridge, acknowledge, she tried again, a note of urgency entering her voice. More static, then finally a broken transmission came through. Unknown vessels, technology beyond, taking evasive. The transmission cut off abruptly. General Kora had grown very still, her expression hardening as she realized the situation might be more complex than anticipated. It seems, Colonel Walker said calmly, that we have some things to discuss after all. Standing there in Earth sunlight, surrounded by human forces that suddenly seemed far more formidable than expected, Zara had the distinct feeling that the Amazora Empire's 18th galaxy might not be quite the easy conquest they had anticipated. And the most unsettling part? The male standing before them, this Colonel Walker, didn't look frightened at all. In fact, if Zara didn't know better, she might think he was actually enjoying this. The tension in Central Park crackled like lightning before a storm. General Kora's Storm Rider's expression had transformed from smug superiority to grim calculation as the communication linked to her fleet remained disturbingly silent. What have you done? She demanded of Colonel Walker, who remained remarkably composed despite being held by two Amazora warriors. We learned from our previous encounters, Walker replied calmly. The Krell Dominion, the Vorix Hive, the Meccano Collective, each one taught us something valuable. We adapted. That's what humans do best. Lieutenant Nix frantically worked her tactical tablet. General, I have established a limited connection with our orbital sensors. There are vessels engaging our fleet. Their configuration doesn't match any known human technology. Because it's not entirely human, Walker explained. As I mentioned, we salvage. We reverse engineer. We improve. Commander Zara felt an unfamiliar sensation creeping up her spine. On her homeworld, they had a term for it, Dreshva, the moment a predator realizes it might have become prey. You have had assistance, she accused. Other alien species helping you. Walker shook his head. No assistance, Commander. Just the technology left behind by those who failed to conquer us. General Kora recovered her composure with visible effort. Her hand moved to the ceremonial blade at her hip. Except it wasn't merely ceremonial, as the humans would soon discover if this situation deteriorated further. Even if you have managed to surprise our fleet, you face the galaxy's finest ground warriors, she declared. Warriors who have subjugated civilizations far more advanced than yours. For the first time, Walker allowed himself a genuine smile. I don't doubt your warriors' capabilities, General, but there's something your intelligence clearly missed about Earth. And what might that be? Kora asked with dangerous quiet. We specialize in asymmetrical warfare, Walker said. We don't fight fair. We fight to win. At that moment, Zara's tactical sensors began blaring warnings. Multiple human signatures were approaching from unexpected vectors, above them, below them, and from concealed positions all around the park. General, they have surrounded us. Nix reported, her professional demeanor slipping. And there's energy signatures similar to... This can't be right. Similar to what? Kora demanded. Similar to our own weapons technology. Nix finished, her voice barely above a whisper, a new voice called out from behind their formation. "That would be my department." The Amazora warriors spun to face the newcomer, weapons instinctively raised. A human female stood there, apparently having approached unchallenged through their defensive perimeter, something that should have been impossible. Dr. Jasmine Blackburn, director of Xenotechnology, she introduced herself with a slight nod. Unlike the military personnel, she wore no uniform, just practical clothing and an expression of intense curiosity. "I have to thank you for bringing your ships down intact. The Meccano Collective's vessels were so badly damaged when they crashed, it took us months to extract anything useful." Zara stared at the human female with newfound wariness. The casual way she spoke of reverse engineering alien technology suggested a level of scientific acumen far beyond what their intelligence had indicated. "You couldn't possibly understand our systems," Kora scoffed, but there was a note of uncertainty in her voice. Doctor Blackburn raised an eyebrow. "Your propulsion system uses quantum entangled particles to create localized space-time distortions. Your weapons harness plasma confined by magnetically aligned exotic matter fields. Your communication relies on tachyon bursts modulated at frequencies that correspond to prime number sequences." She paused. "Would you like me to continue?" The Amazora warriors exchanged alarmed glances. Everything the human female had just described was accurate. "Impossible," Kora breathed. "Not for humans," Colonel Walker said. "Especially not when we're motivated by survival." Zara's tactical assessment was rapidly shifting. What had begun as a simple conquest mission had become something far more dangerous. Even with their superior strength and training, they were outnumbered and potentially outgunned by weapons based on their own technology. "General," she said quietly, "tactical withdrawal may be our best option." Before Kora could respond, her communication device suddenly activated. The voice of Captain Vendra, her fleet's second-in-command, came through, strained and punctuated by what sounded disturbingly like weapons fire. "General Stormrider, we are under attack by vessels using modified Meccano Collective weapons platforms. 3 of our ships have been disabled. The humans have somehow penetrated our security protocols and they're boarding the Spear of Vengeance." Kora's face drained of color. "Boarding? That's not possible. They came from nowhere, General, using some kind of personal stealth technology. They're human males." The revelation struck like a physical blow. In Amazora society, males were precious, to be protected at all costs. The idea of sending males into combat was so alien, so unthinkable, that it had created a blind spot in their tactical thinking. "Your males fight?" Zara asked Colonel Walker, genuine bewilderment in her voice. "Of course," Walker replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "On Earth, anyone who's willing and able can serve." General Kora seemed unable to process this information. "But they're males. They could be killed." "Yes," Dr. Blackburn interjected. "That's the risk all our soldiers take, regardless of gender. It's called courage." "No wonder your intelligence on us was so flawed," Walker added. "You were looking for a society structured like your own, with clear gender divisions. But that's not humanity. We are messy, contradictory, and adaptable." The sound of aircraft grew louder as more human forces converged on the park. On her tactical display, Zara could see that they were now completely surrounded by forces wielding weapons that her sensors couldn't fully classify. Hybrid technology that combined Earth ingenuity with salvaged alien tech. "General," Captain Vendra's voice came through again. "The human boarding parties, they're led by a male who calls himself Admiral Jackson. He's requesting to speak with you." Kora looked utterly lost, an expression Zara had never seen on the face of the legendary general. In all their campaigns across 17 galaxies, they had never encountered a species that so thoroughly defied their expectations. "Put him through," Kora finally ordered. The communication device projected a holographic image of a dark-skinned human male in a formal military uniform adorned with numerous small decorations. Despite being surrounded by Amazora technology that must have been completely alien to him, Admiral Jackson appeared perfectly at ease. "General Stormrider," He began without preamble. Your vessels are now under our control. Your warriors have fought bravely, but further resistance would be pointless. I suggest you order your ground forces to stand down. Zara watched the impossible unfold before her eyes. Admiral Jackson, a male, was dictating terms to General Kora Stormrider, the most decorated Amazora warrior in 3 generations. This is some kind of trick, Kora insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. No species would risk their males in combat. You must be using proxies or drones. Admiral Jackson's expression shifted to something like surprise. I assure you, General, I am very much a human male, commanding this operation in person, as are many of the soldiers who have secured your vessels. Dr. Blackburn stepped forward. I think I understand the confusion. Your species protects males because they are rarer and physically weaker, correct? Nix nodded numbly. Males are precious, to be cherished and protected, not sent into danger. Humans don't work that way, Dr. Blackburn explained. We have roughly equal numbers of males and females, and while there are physical differences, they are not as pronounced as in your species. More importantly, we value individual choice. Anyone can fight if they choose to. And believe me, Colonel Walker added with a grim smile, human males can be quite effective in combat. As if to punctuate his point, several more human soldiers moved into visible positions around the perimeter. They carried weapons that bore disturbing similarities to Amazora designs, but with modifications that Zara's trained eye recognized as improvements. You have had years to study the technology from previous invasion attempts, Zara realized aloud. While we were gathering intelligence on your social structures and visible military assets, we were preparing for the next wave, Walker finished for her. We figured someone else would eventually show up. Law of averages. General Kora stood rigid, her proud posture unchanged despite the catastrophic turn of events. What are your terms, Admiral? Simple, Jackson replied through the holographic projection. You will leave Earth's space immediately. You will mark our solar system as off-limits in whatever navigational charts your empire uses. And you will spread the word that Earth is not to be trifled with. And if we refuse, Kora asked, though it was clear she already knew the answer, then we will keep your ships and send you home in escape pods, Admiral Jackson said matter-of-factly, after we have stripped every bit of useful technology, of course. For a species that prided itself on military conquest, there could be no greater humiliation. Zara watched as General Kora's expression cycled through rage, disbelief, and finally, grudging respect. The general straightened to her full, impressive height. Admiral Jackson, I accept your terms. But know this, you have earned the respect of the Amazora Empire today. Few can make that claim. Jackson nodded solemnly. We respect your warriors as well, General. We simply ask for the same in return. Commander Zara, Kora ordered, turning away from the hologram. Signal our warriors to stand down. Zara complied immediately, transmitting the order to all Amazora forces. The warriors lowered their weapons, though many looked confused or angry at this unexpected turn of events. Colonel Walker was released from his restraints. He straightened his uniform casually, as if being held captive by alien warriors was a minor inconvenience rather than a life-threatening situation. I have questions, Zara found herself saying to him, about humans, about how your society functions with both sexes serving in combat roles. Walker regarded her with unexpected sympathy. Cultural exchange was never on the table before, but I don't see why it couldn't be now. Under peaceful circumstances. Peaceful circumstances, Zara echoed, testing the unfamiliar concept. The Amazora Empire had not engaged in peaceful circumstances with another species in generations. They conquered. That was their way. Dr. Blackburn approached, her scientific curiosity evidently outweighing any fear of the alien warriors. Commander, if you're interested in cultural exchange, perhaps you'd allow me to show you some of Earth's achievements? Not just our military capabilities, but our art, literature, music. The concept was so novel that Zara couldn't immediately form a response. In Amazora society, males created art and culture, while females fought and conquered. The idea that humans did both, regardless of gender, was fascinating in ways she hadn't anticipated. "I would be interested in such an exchange," she finally said. General Kora shot her sharp look, but didn't contradict her. Perhaps the general, too, was beginning to realize that there might be more to learn from these humans than initially thought. While the diplomatic details are being arranged, Admiral Jackson's hologram continued. "We will begin the process of returning your crews to your remaining vessels. You will find them unharmed. We are not barbarians. Unlike some species we have encountered," Colonel Walker added pointedly. Kora acknowledged this with a slight incline of her head. "The Amazora Empire will honor this agreement. Earth will be marked as sovereign territory, not to be approached without explicit invitation." What went unsaid, but was understood by all the Amazora warriors, was that their report to the High Matriarch would include strong recommendations against any future attempts to conquer Earth. Not because humans couldn't be defeated. Any species could, with sufficient force, but because the cost would be far higher than any potential gain. As arrangements were made for the Amazora withdrawal, Zara found herself standing slightly apart from her fellow warriors, observing the humans with new eyes. They were physically smaller and seemingly weaker than Amazora females, yet they had managed to outmaneuver the most feared military force in 17 galaxies. "You are wondering how we did it," Colonel Walker said, appearing beside her with surprising stealth for a human. "Yes," she admitted. "By all logical assessments, we should have overwhelmed you." Walker smiled, not the smug grin of a victor, but the knowing smile of someone sharing a secret. "Humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. Different nations, different ideologies, different religions. It's forced us to become innovative, adaptive, and incredibly stubborn. But surely unified purpose is stronger than division." Zara argued. Sometimes Walker conceded. But our divisions also create strength through diversity. Different perspectives, different approaches to problems. When we are threatened from outside, those differences become advantages. Zara considered this. Amazora society was remarkably homogeneous. All warriors trained in the same techniques. All strategists taught the same doctrines. It created formidable unity, but perhaps also predictability. "And your males?" She began, still struggling with the concept. "They fight alongside females as equals." "As equals," Walker confirmed. "Different strengths sometimes, different approaches, but equal in value and respect." The idea was revolutionary, almost heretical by Amazora standards. And yet, the evidence of its effectiveness was undeniable. Human males had led the boarding parties that had captured Amazora warships, a military achievement that would be studied and debated in Amazora war colleges for generations. "Commander," Lieutenant Nix called, breaking Zara from her thoughts. "The general requests your presence for the withdrawal coordination." "Of course," Zara replied. Before leaving, she turned back to Colonel Walker. Perhaps someday, I might return to learn more about humans." Under peaceful circumstances, Walker extended his hand, a human gesture she recognized from their cultural briefings. After a moment's hesitation, she took it. "We'd welcome that, Commander," he said. "Humanity has always been better at making friends than enemies." As she walked away to join General Kora, Zara realized that in all their meticulous planning for the conquest of Earth, there was one critical factor the Amazora Empire had failed to consider: that they might have something to learn from the species they sought to subjugate. The Amazora would return to their empire with no new territory, no conquest to celebrate. But perhaps they were bringing back something more valuable, a new perspective on strength and adaptability, and the humbling knowledge that in the vast universe, even the mighty Amazora had more to learn. As their ships lifted off from Earth hours later, Zara stood at the view screen watching the blue-green planet recede. For the first time in her military career, she was leaving a world not as a conqueror, but as something entirely new to her experience as a student. And somewhere on that planet, those surprising humans, males and females together, continued their improbable existence, ready to surprise the next species foolish enough to underestimate them.